would like to do today is talk about another aspect of getting projects started and programs. In this case, what we want to discuss is how you create partnerships, either to work with your dream company or for your dream company, and how you deal with large companies and these partnerships, especially as a young company coming up and just getting started. I'm Russell Shilling. I was given a shout out by Mark Delura and Ed Metz on the last panel. I worked closely with them in the government, funding games and virtual environments and a bunch of other things. I also, when I was in the military, created a program with Sesame Workshop for helping military children cope with grief and injury and separations. I'm continuing to do some work on and off with Sesame and other groups with Roblox, doing some AI work. So have a big picture view of what it's like to create some of these partnerships from the government perspective. But what we really need to hear are the people who've actually been doing it right now and who are active in this area. And so what we're going to do is start off and go down the road here and let folks introduce themselves and tell you what they do and why they wanted to be on this panel. So without further ado, Lindsay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here and speaking to everyone today. I'm Lindsay Watson. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Augment Therapy. In short, what we do is we gamify physical rehabilitation for physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists. The reason why we do this is I'm a physical therapist. I've been practicing for over 20 years. I work primarily in pediatrics, and so I provided therapy typically to children that often had chronic conditions. So these were kids that often, once they received their diagnosis of cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, they land in my hands for sometimes decades on end, which typically they hate me as time goes on because I'm the one encouraging them to do the same boring exercises over and over and over again, which are essential for those kids to make progress. So I have been serving in healthcare, oftentimes pediatrics or individuals with neurocognitive impairments are often overlooked populations in healthcare. And so I really have been dedicated to serving these populations and thus created a company that makes the experience and process of therapy better. So I'm excited to be here today, and actually we can share this video first that gives you a look at what we do so you can understand it better.
Therapy is the visionary force behind Arwell Pro and Arwell, two cutting-edge exergaming platforms designed to make exercise an exciting adventure through AR and XR interactions. At the heart of our technology is MoCast, a patented, groundbreaking system that tracks a patient's movements using just the camera on a tablet or phone. No wearables or sensors required. Here's how it works. Players choose a game, then move their bodies to interact with the on-screen action, getting active and engaged in the process. Our powerful collaborations with Sesame Workshop and Niantic have brought these beloved characters and worlds to life, creating interactions players love. Groove with Sesame Street characters in Grover's Dance Party. Trace and learn letters and shapes with Elmo, or join Cookie Monster on an epic quest through Snackland. And with Niantic's Peridot, players can embark on a hide-and-seek adventure, run till their heart's content, or complete their daily squats, all while entertaining their virtual pet. Therapists using Arwell Pro in their practices have seen a remarkable boost in patient engagement. Routine exercises can often feel dull, but when patients see themselves in a virtual world, moving, playing, and having fun, they can't wait to get started. Augment Therapy has revolutionized the way therapy is delivered, blending technology and play to make movement irresistible. Augment.
You're too kind.
Great. Hans.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hans Cate. I've been in the video games industry for just over 20 years with stints spent at PlayStation and Electronic Arts. About 10 years ago, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is the autoimmune version of diabetes. And I was in the games industry, not a doctor, didn't know what to do, but we did have connections. And myself, as well as Dan Connors, who's the co-founder and former CEO of Telltale Games, who also has a child with T1D, decided to get together and volunteer for Breakthrough T1D, which is an organization headquartered here in New York City, formerly called JDRF. And their purpose is to fund research to prevent, treat, and cure type 1 diabetes. And we started a video game initiative for them 5 years ago, and I also brought a video. One second.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I want to freak out about that dono a minute. Thank you so much, Prodigy. Bless your cotton socks.
Connell, thank you very much for the $25 donation.
I just gotta tell you guys, this fills me with so much joy. Like, I'm trying not to get teary-eyed right now, but I just feeling so seen and cared about, and giving us another way to like spread the word just means so much to me. So
Oh, don't, you'll set me off.
oh, sorry.
Thank you, Red Panda Party! Yeah! That's what I'm talking about.
The way gamers are and the way the gamer community is they really support each other, you know, and ever since I've been in the business, I've seen this. And I knew that if people knew that you were struggling, they would want to help.
Hi, so I'm Ashley Rosenbaum. I am the lead animator at Niantic Spatial, which is a brand new startup that spun out of Niantic Labs quite recently. And so at Niantic Spatial, we are building a geospatial AI model and spatial intelligence. But previously, when I was at Niantic, I've been there for several years. And so previously, I worked on franchises like Peridot, as you can see here that I brought with me. But we've been combining gameplay and social communities through augmented reality. And for me, there wasn't really a specific moment that got me into social impact or any event. But honestly, I've been a gamer my whole life. I've played a ton of video games, and I've built such an amazing community around me through video games. And I think over the years, I kind of found myself just surrounded by people who love video games and social impact and just really want to make a difference in humanity. And quite honestly, that's really inspiring. It's hard not to get involved, and that's how I got into this.
Hi, everyone. That's awesome, by the way. I also share some of those sentiments. My name is Franco Schettino. I am a digital producer at Sesame Workshop. Much of my work is in international and domestic impacts, ranging from hand washing in games for hand washing in Bangladesh to supporting families through coping through grief. Most recently, we're kind of working and exploring Roblox, and we'll be launching a game soon on the next platform that is movement-based with Cookie Monster. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, let's get started then for an open discussion, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end to take some questions. So, as the parent, I'm the parent of 2 adult sons who are autistic. And I would say a lot of the reason I got into the social impact space and into this area was my sensitivity to the needs of my own family and to others. What I've seen over the years, though, is that some groups do better than others at balancing out the impact side. They're not designing for the community, they're designing for their own personal space. And so when you all are looking at this in both terms of being creatives and for your impact areas, how are you thinking about that intersection between impact and entertainment?
I can start there. So really the genesis of how I bridged that gap from healthcare and rehab to developing strategic partnerships is I was constantly watching my patients of what was really driving engagement for them. So you understand, obviously, in my industry, what I'm doing is something that's typically painful or boring or repetitive for a population that really doesn't want to do what I'm prescribing. And so I was always paying attention to what was really drawing the attention of my patients. And so I became obsessed with watching them game because that seemed to draw the greatest amount of engagement of everything that these children were touching or my patients were touching. And so I started bringing them into my practice. So I started trying to bend existing gaming technology because gamers, you do engagement better than anyone else on this planet. And so I thought, all right, I'll bring that into my practice. And it did okay. And I basically became obsessed with how would I modify all of these tools to make them better, to truly make them therapeutic. And when the notepad next to my bed nightstand was filling up with notes all night long, I couldn't sleep anymore, all of these ideas, I decided, all right, that's it. I'm going to build it myself. And those initial vision boards of how I would do this included a variety of embodying characters, but also the patient seeing themselves on the screen and augmenting their world with unrecognizable characters. But I realized if I really wanted to unlock engagement and get these kids doing these movements over time, it would be incredibly powerful to bring in recognizable characters that they were already beloved to them, already driving engagement for them. And so in the very early days of starting the company, I started dreaming about building something with strategic partners and intellectual property that these kids already knew and loved. So that was the genesis of how I got to partner with these organizations as a little nobody startup.
Yeah, we were nobodies also. Type 1 diabetes has existed for a long time. For those of you who don't know, I mentioned it's an autoimmune disease. It's the kind where your pancreas no longer produces insulin, and so you have to check your own blood sugar many times a day. You wear a continuous glucose monitor. You wear an insulin pump, and that's where you get your insulin from that regulates your blood sugar. The organization, JDRF, now called Breakthrough T1D, has existed for 50 years. They are your typical foundation. They raise money through evening galas and bike rides and walks and things like that. They're very family oriented. Type 1 diabetes used to be called juvenile diabetes, but it's not really a juvenile child disease. You can get this at any age. But families do a lot of volunteer work, and we wanted to volunteer for this organization. And because we were from games, we said, what are some things you guys aren't doing? And honestly, this initiative, this Breakthrough T1D Play, is something that probably only could have started from outside this philanthropic organization, this foundation, because we had the connections. Internally, staff probably wouldn't have been able to convince their managers, on the ROI, the staff needs, does this integrate with any of our existing fundraising tools? So coming from the outside allowed us to experiment and do a couple things and slowly win over the confidence of an established organization to embrace what we were doing. And we had a couple early wins and brought in some money. We did humble bundles, if you know what that is. We did some streams, as you saw, and eventually over time, people started to really embrace us, and the organization has now made Play an official program. They hired a national staff. I'm still a volunteer. I don't get paid by them, but they are now paying others to help run the program. And since starting the program in 2019, we've raised just over $7 million for the organization. And that money then goes on to fund all these wonderful researchers and doctors who are trying to cure this disease.
Let me ask a question down here to our developers. So, working with a group, especially Lindsay, this is an amazing program to me because having two groups of kind of superstar performers helping out on her program is kind of unprecedented. But, for you guys, when you're working with a new company, especially a small company, a startup, what are you looking for? And, what advice can you give to them for, how to be prepared for their, they've got 5 minutes for that pitch. How are they going to go after you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what's important to partnerships for us is, that they're aligned with our goals, with, what we feel is important, at Sesame Street. So, the big thing for us is, making kids, supporting kids through like their development phase. So a lot of this is, for just aligning on the mission, making kids, helping kids grow stronger, smarter, and kinder, making sure that they are, they have the same kind of belief in that, a very core foundation is important to developing their skills. And, if you don't like kids, it's going to be a challenge to work with us. So just making sure your partners are have that same passion to help kids grow, and develop their skills.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty similar as well for us. I mean, we're looking for people that are very motivated and very excited and passionate about their mission as far as what they are creating. But working with us as well, we have some established IPs that we really need to stay true to. And so when there's potential partners coming up to us or different organizations, and they're coming up with their ideas to pitch to us, one thing that we look for is how motivated are they into their mission? Are they really passionate? But then can our IPs really integrate? Does it make sense? Because take, for example, we have Paradox, right? And so if someone is coming up, even though the mission may be strong, if it doesn't really align with what Paradox are or what we already have going, it may not necessarily work. So that's something that we're trying to align when we're working with potential partners. We want to make sure they're passionate, but the IP matches.
Yeah, I'd say another thing that's impressed me too, and this is through some of the work I've done through MindTrust with the Roblox education team, is, how do you see the role of, you guys have the experience of production, including you, Hans. So how do you see mentoring as being part of that? Because I know even in the military, when we started the program with Sesame Workshop, the comment was basically, so we've got a contract with Sesame. We can do anything with the Elmo character we want now, can't we? And it's like, no, I think we are going to have some discussions with that. But, but the mentoring through the various things like IP
Yeah,
and
sure.
educational processes and things like that.
Right, right. So yeah, it's incredibly important that we stay true to our IP. Right, we have toolkits and we have style guides that we make sure that our partners are aware of and familiar with, and vice versa. So like we'll get their materials, and a part of being the producer for me is to make sure like I completely understand our partners' needs through all that. And then, we have the internal and external stakeholders, like from the very start, who are brought through on an onboarding process. That way, all of the mission and the goals that we are looking to accomplish through the project, they all align on. And just making sure that the right experts are brought in early. We have education experts who help on curriculum and goal. We have designers that are part of the whole process who support on the look and feel of a project. And then we go through rounds of review. Our sprints have multiple rounds of review where we check in with everyone and including our partners, for partner feedback.
Yeah, and actually, same thing for us. So a lot of times when we're meeting with partners, one of the first things that we do is we go over our IP, and so we'll go over guidelines and rules. Say if we have specific characters, we will go over the lore to ensure that both sides are very aware as far as how these characters should act or what the general IP is. And so we do the same thing. We actually set up meetings as well where we will have check-ins to discuss like the progress, but we'll also check in to make sure that we're still aligned on the task, like what the overall mission was. Does it still stick with the IP? But then additionally, we'll have check-ins as well to ensure, is the game fun? That's a very core thing as well, because you have to have your players engaged in what you're making, along with using these IPs to help bring people in. So that's what we do. We have multiple check-ins just to ensure that we're on the same page.
Can I make two quick comments? Yeah. So
you bridged kind of both of these areas.
Yeah, we have a different kind of IP. The organization, Breakthrough T1D, is a foundation that isn't necessarily an IP, but they do have a brand, and they want to protect that brand and make sure that we do it justice. And it's a very family-friendly brand. So when we came in and said, let's talk games and how it can support you, the conversation very quickly went to, what do you do about M-rated games? We got families who have strong opinions about that. Should M-rated games be part of these bundles that you're going to sell? Should M-rated games be shown in the streams that raise money for the organization? So there was initially some cautionary conversations that took place, and we had to win their confidence. So we chose our content and partners very carefully at the beginning, and then eventually showed how games can be an appropriate and very powerful mechanism for creating awareness, creating funds, and supporting a community. By the same token, they came and supported us when we wanted to create a Roblox experience. Now, every 2 years, the organization sends 170 kids between the age of 4 and 17 to Washington, D.C. to do an advocacy event, to meet with their congressional representatives and senators. And we created an experience in Roblox for them to show them what it would be like. There's games and educational content in there. The branding colors for the organization is blue. And so when we started to build out the experience of what it would be like to go to Capitol Hill, they said, oh, don't just use just blue, because we want to represent both the bipartisan colors. So make sure you got red and blue. And we said, that's a very good tip, thank you. I said, also, don't put our logos hanging on the side of the Capitol building. That's all fine and funny for you guys, but we want to make sure we, when this gets seen, that we treat our brand respectfully, but also respect those of the others, like the U.S. government. So we were very glad to have their partnership all along the way to give us the sort of small little design decision so that we could create something authentic.
Yeah, and back with my government hat on, I can't stress, those of you who do still have SBIRs outstanding, is to make sure you're very careful going forward with messaging in your own games. It's rough out there. Well, so Lindsay, and actually for the rest of this, the group, it's an interesting process. What have you gotten out of these kinds of partnerships? I mean, and this is the same for Niantic and Sesame. What do you get out of having partnerships like this? And what's been the impact on, like evidence and research and things like that?
Well, for us, every startup, every new game is looking for validation, credibility, and definitely aligning with some of these incredible organizations puts you in a new category. But also as a startup, there are challenges with, how do we navigate as a David and Goliath kind of scenario where we are nobody, and where truly, for approvals to move to the next stage with things, it's me and one other person to approve something to go out, and recognizing that for a larger organization, there's a process that you have to go through for approvals, and recognizing that the speed that we may be working in may be much more difficult for an organization where there's a number of people that need to come to the table to approve something to go to the next level. So recognizing those kinds of challenges is something that's actually helped us as a company build better. Because we're taking pieces of how these bigger organizations navigate and build things effectively, and we've learned how to distill that into a smaller company to build something better. I mean, these organizations have absolutely figured out how to engage a wide population, how to make something truly accessible and interesting to an enormous population, whereas we maybe as a startup, we're building with a smaller lens, focusing on a smaller group. And so we've learned so much from just working with these kinds of foundational companies to entertainment and gaming.
Yeah, so I mean, on Niantic's end, I mean, we've dealt with a lot of partners, and it's very important that we just give back. We're very mindful of giving back and trying to get involved in as many social impact causes that we can. So if you look at Niantic as far as in the past and what we've done over the many years, we've been trying to bring together communities, trying to get people to align and just bring together just social communities. And so, yeah, with that, I mean, we're just trying to give back, quite honestly.
Well, let me tune the question a little bit as we go to Franco. So, I mean, it's one thing to say it's an impact game or it's an impact project. So what's the view on what is impact? So, how do you define impact as an organization that's working with a small company or a gaming company?
Yeah, I mean...
and then answer the question that I originally asked.
Yeah, which was something else that's already, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I would just like to say, like, bouncing off of Lindsay a little bit, it's definitely a two-way street. Like, there are benefits that you receive from, Sesame's big reach and, our engagement with children and, across the globe pretty much. But we also get, benefits from, you. We, the kids that we see who are engaged in the games that we're creating is a huge uplift, for the company, and it makes, it kind of solidifies for us that we're doing the right thing, and as far as impact, I mean, I can go down the road of analysis and all that, but for me as a producer, just sitting back and seeing these kids having fun and learning something is huge.
And what types of impact? How are you guys measuring impact out of your products on your side of the
Besides like dollars raised or
Yeah, so I mean, as a former funder myself, one of the things I always had to ask performers who are building games is how are you measuring the impact? You can say you're, educating, but how are you showing me that in the proposal? So,
Got it.
same thing.
Yeah, there are over 80 autoimmune diseases in the world, and can anyone guess how many of them have been cured by humankind? The answer is 0. Not a single autoimmune disease has been cured yet, and that includes type 1 diabetes. It's one of the more dangerous autoimmune diseases. It's not instantly fatal, but it is a very complicated disease, and it is quite shocking to families that have to deal with it. It takes a lot of care and maintenance. What is really exciting in terms of an impact, and we can credit organizations like Breakthrough T1D and the American Diabetes Association for funding the research that's gotten here, but we are so close to a point when we will start eradicating diseases like this, but all autoimmune diseases. What is happening in cell therapies and gene editing has put us on the precipice of a completely life-changing switch in humankind. And that's why the research is so important. But all the support that has gone through these organizations has gotten to that point, including the CEO of the organization that I volunteer for, as well as many who serve on boards and do the volunteer work like myself. We feel that we're going to see cures like that in our lifetime, in our children's lifetime. And that's very different than how things used to look, say, even 20 years ago. It wasn't sure how close we were getting. Also means it's incredibly important that the government continue to support that research. And right now, things happening in Washington, we're not really sure. And that's why another reason why organizations, foundations like Breakthrough T1D are necessary. But wouldn't it be great to think that video games played a role in eradicating and curing not just one autoimmune disease, but potentially all of them? What a legacy that would be. And the fact that we've gotten this far, that's one way to kind of measure our progress, is that the research is almost there, it's ready, let's have games give them a hand.
Well, let me add a question to you while you answer this. So in addition to those same questions, how in the world did you come across working with both Niantic and Sesame Workshop? How did you make those partnerships happen? Because I think that's really at a crux of a lot of what people are interested in. So,
yeah, for me, as a true outsider in the world, as I was building this company, I had no mechanisms to actually touch these organizations, but there were really two different channels of how I got just in proximity to not only these organizations, but a number of others as well. The first one was we participated in a tech accelerator. So we were in a pediatric digital health accelerator. The directors of the program had connections to Sesame Workshop and offered an introduction. And so I did that 5-minute sweating, like, oh my God, kind of pitch to the organization. It got me another meeting. And how I approached those conversations was very much not just me selling what the mission of my company was, but also a dual lens approach was thinking constantly about that organization and what is their goal as well, and how could I help them deliver that. So not just from the lens of what did I want from them. So that was the first channel. The second channel, I actually did a cold outreach to get to Niantic Spatial. So I saw them post something on LinkedIn about some of their programming. I told the true story that the genesis of the company was me modifying Pokemon Go to get children that were in wheelchairs up to walk. And initially my bosses at work told me no, that I couldn't use that because it wasn't a validated healthcare tool. And when I'm told no, that doesn't go over very well for me. So that was really the genesis. And so when I cold reached out to Niantic, I said at the time that their games were having an impact beyond what they initially built it for in healthcare. And I think that's something so powerful for you all as you're building solutions is people want to know that they are doing good and impacting in unique ways. And so having the courage to just reach out, that got a follow-up meeting. And then I did another sweaty palm meeting after that, but that got that ball rolling. So I think just having the courage to do those kinds of reach outs can actually build on things, because I think these big organizations are also looking for ways to impact in new channels. And you could be that way that they get to deliver that to a wider population than they're reaching right now.
Well, we're coming close to the end. So what I'd like to do is do a final round of just letting you provide some general thoughts. What is the advice you would like to give the audience? And if there's any examples that you've really seen that you said, wow, this was all worthwhile. So this was something that really impressed me. And by the way, as far as the interviewing with Sesame is concerned, Grover may seem nice on television.
Hey, now, come on. Grover's amazing.
But let's actually start off with Franco and come back down. And he is amazing.
Yeah, sure. Well, it was funny. I was just in the previous Roblox event upstairs, and the same, advice kind of came up in that moment. But I would say bring in experts early. And what I mean by experts is, yeah, it's great to have the curriculum expert, the designer, and all that stuff. But bring in the kids early and have them brainstorm with you, have them co-design with you, have them just throw things at you, and you'll find out that immediately that wow, I need to broaden my horizons because this little kid is totally bringing it. And then what was the second part of that? If there's ever a moment where I was incredibly proud of the work that we were doing, Lindsay, was when you invited me to the Buddy Walk, and seeing all these kids do those exercises and their PT.
The National Down Syndrome.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Without even realizing that they were doing the exercises that they needed to do, and they were completely having a blast. Up until then, I was doing 1,000 jumping jacks with the count, and even incorporating my daughter to join me in testing. But seeing that in person with all these kids meant a lot to me. Yeah. And it's my quads are amazing, by the way, from that jumping jack thing.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And if you missed the talk today, take a good look at the Cooney Center and their sandbox work that they're doing.
Yeah,
it's an
that's
excellent
awesome.
program that they've got running.
Oh, so some advice. I would definitely say if you can get your developers in together, so say from your organization with a large corporation or whatnot, get your developers talking individually, that would be fantastic. When I think about some of our partnerships, honestly, some of my favorite partnerships have been the ones where, for me as an animator, I can directly communicate with the devs on the other side, with the organization that we're partnered with. That has been really great because it removes any boundaries with communications, and it allows for brainstorming, and just something magical just really happens. Your developers can really go in and begin to create and focus in on their craft, and then focus in on the mission and what they're creating. So if you can get people on your team to meet up with the other organization that you're trying to partner up with, do that, bridge that gap if you definitely can. And then in terms of something that really, I don't know, just kind of made me rethink everything that I was doing in a good way, So when you look at Niantic and what we've done, I mean, we bring together communities with our games. I mean, a lot of the times when people think of Niantic, they think of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in a park, all together, bonding, making friends. But for me, as an individual developer, there was a moment that really resonated with me. There was a player who unfortunately got very ill and she had to be hospitalized. And she was posting about it on social media. And one thing that she said was that Peridot helped her get through it. Because during her time in the hospital, she was using Peridot as a way to get through the day. She was taking care of her Peridot, feeding it, playing virtual fetch. And for me, that hit a little bit different. I think because at the time, it's like, okay, I'm making a game, we're making fun, cute, cuddly creatures, this is awesome. But when I read that story and hearing these individual stories from these players, it made me almost rethink as far as, wait a minute, I need to have a different mindset on this. And it actually took me back for a little bit after reading that story. And I keep track of this player as far as on their social media just to see how they're doing. And it's really, really incredible. So of course, like for us, we want to make a big social impact when we can. And I mean, that's always the goal. But sometimes looking at those individual players and seeing how it's impacting their lives really can make quite a difference.
Well said. So a bit of advice goes back to this topic of community. Community is the engine that is going to make these causes move forward, right? In our case, and hopefully for many of you who are looking to do something similar to what we did, you're not just looking for an audience, you're looking for a movement. You want to be able to create the opportunity for people to carry everything forward and grow this initiative over time until we've got a cure, then everybody can stop work on it. We hired two full-time staff. One is Josh Larson, who comes from, he was the chief business officer for Congregate, if most of you remember that games platform. And then we hired a community manager, Monique Engelsjerd. She's a gamer and she's also a nonprofit veteran. And their job is, among many other things, is to grow the community and attend to them on our Discord server, which is a tremendous platform for growing a community. It's to be on social media and connect with people there. It's vital to have a thriving, supportive community. And there are about 9 million people on the planet who have this disease, and we haven't reached even a small pin drop of those, but we do have a very thriving community thanks to the work of many full-time staff. That brings me to the story about a fun recent event is that two of our streamers, Ray Bay Plays and Krillin, they go by those tags on their on Twitch. Their real names are Rachel and George. They were part of our community. They were streamers. They both yesterday won awards. We did our online awards night. We give them a trophy and all kinds of stuff. So they each raised quite a bit of money on their own. Well, they met through this community of ours and met up in real life. This was sometime after the pandemic, and they are now engaged. So it's one of those moments that reminds you that it's not just about the money that's raised. It's about community. It's about connection. It's about making people feel seen and part of something that's bigger than the individual parts.
Bring us home.
All right, that's a lot of pressure. So my advice for anyone interested in bringing gaming technology into healthcare is be ready for a bumpy ride. Healthcare still is very hesitant to embrace gaming technology. A lot of people in my industry are still thinking it's just for fun and it can't really affect patient care, and they couldn't be more wrong. So what we have chosen at Augment Therapy is to really put our money where our mouth is. And so when you come in that field, be ready to prove it. Do the research. Make it undeniable that gaming has a place in patient care. And so we have spent a lot of time and effort and money researching what we do. And we actually just published a peer-reviewed journal article about a month ago in Annals of Medicine that showed that gamification was better than traditional physical therapy alone for patient care. And these are the types of things in healthcare that you need to have at the table so that people say, yeah, there's a reason why we should bring this into our patient care because it matters. It impacts outcomes. It impacts the trajectory of care particularly for populations that have chronic conditions. So we have committed to that. And a perfect kind of demonstration of that power is actually we're installed currently in a number of pediatric hospitals across the country, some schools, long-term care facilities, but one patient story in particular at Cleveland's Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital. Our software is actually installed in every patient room on the hematology oncology floor. This is where children often have diagnoses where they're so immunocompromised they cannot leave their hospital room once they're admitted. So our software is mounted on an iPad, mounted on the wall. Therapists create a custom program, and these patients can, if they don't feel well until 2 o'clock in the morning and their provider has gone home for the day, they haven't missed their exercise opportunity. So we fairly recently heard a story of a patient that was admitted, a 14-year-old patient with a sickle cell pain crisis. So in this hospital, this wing of rooms, they actually refer to as the cave. Because once those patients are admitted with this diagnosis, they're in such profound pain that they stay curled up in a ball with the room dark, lights off, no one talk to me, because the pain is so intense, even medication can't control it. These patients are always offered therapies, which they almost always refuse in those first few days. So this 14-year-old patient had been refusing to get out of bed for 4 days in a row. Nothing was working to get this patient up and moving, and this was vital for this patient to move in order to be discharged from the hospital. Finally, what they did, they brought the software into the room, and this 14-year-old, they said, hey, this one game, you can actually embody Cookie Monster and march in place and go through a virtual world. And this patient, that was their first out of bed in 4 days and did 20 minutes of sustained exercise in their first out of bed episode. That's huge in my world. Doesn't happen. And it was all because of games. And this is in the healthcare industry. These are the types of stories and evidence that they need in order for you to really make waves in that world. So I hope you all go for it. Because it's a worthy cause.
You did bring it home.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I don't think we have time for questions.
Do we? They said we could go until 4.
Oh, okay.
If you guys want.
Does anybody have a question for the panel? And we're certainly available to talk afterwards as well. So.
Thank you very much for such an inspirational panel and with concrete advice. I was wondering, have you also worked with mental health? These were more physical based? Because it's something that I'm interested in. Yeah, thank you.
We've touched it a little bit. As you often know, a component of mental health often is physical exercise is prescribed. So we do have a version of the software that is direct to consumer, that is designed just to encourage movement for populations that may be needing mental health support through the physicality of it. So we'll do deep breathing, we have yoga, so we have some executive function type things, but our focus has been primarily gross motor, physical therapy, fine motor, and some speech components as well.
Yeah, a lot of the work I did in DoD when on active duty and since has been around mental health. So helped produce a lot of games in the mental health area. Really, the Sesame Workshop program that we put together was heavily mental health towards the children. I mean, and it's still online, so I recommend you look at it. But it was really helping them through those first days of grief, and then giving advice to the parents on how to talk to their kids about even suicide. So it was yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources on our website that deal with mental health and wellness and well-being. So I recommend, yeah.